April Wine is a Canadian rock band formed in 1969. Originally based in Halifax, Nova Scotia, the band enjoyed international success in the 1970s and 1980s, releasing more than 20 albums since 1971. History. The early years. April Wine began in late 1969 in Waverley, Nova Scotia. The band's name was chosen simply because members thought the two words sounded good together. The original members were brothers David Henman on guitar and Richie Henman on drums. Their cousin Jim Henman joined in on bass and Mills Goodwin completed the sound on lead vocals and guitar. In early 1970 the band relocated to Montreal. Shortly after arriving in their new home the band was signed by Aquarius Records. They recorded and released their debut album April Wine in September 1971. The album spawned their first single, Fast Train, which received fairly steady airplay on radio stations across Canada and established Mills Goodwin as the band's main songwriter. The single's success led the band's label to ask for a second album amid the first of many lineup changes. Jim Henman left the band in the fall of 1971 and was replaced by Jim Clench. Mainstream success begins. Under the guidance of producer Ralph Murphy, April Wine recorded their second album, titled On Record. The first single from the album was a cover version of the song You Could Have Been a Lady, originally by the band Hot Chocolate. The record was a commercial success, hitting number 5 on the Canadian charts, as well as cracking the Billboard Hot 100 chart in the United States where it stayed for 11 weeks, peaking at number 32. Immediately following that triumph, April Wine released a second single from On Record, titled Bad Side of the Moon. This song, written by Elton John and Bernie Taupin, also got much airplay on Canadian radio stations and was a minor hit in the US as well. Both tracks remain staples on classic rock radio stations in Canada. On Record was certified gold in Canada and the band, along with Murphy, returned to the studio to exploit the popularity generated by their second release. During the recording of the band's third album, still another lineup change occurred. Before the album's completion, brothers David and Richie Henman resigned, leaving Mills Goodwin as the only remaining original member. Goodwin and Clench decided to continue the band and began auditions for replacement musicians. Eventually drummer Jerry Mercer and guitarist Gary Moffett were chosen, and together they finished recording the band's third album entitled Electric Jewels, which contained songs such as Weeping Widow, Just Like That, and Lady Run, Lady Hide. These songs would remain in April Wine's concert set lists for many years. In support of this album, the band embarked on the Electric Adventure Tour which featured a massive lighting and pyrotechnic show. The gold and platinum years. The band's fourth release, Stand Back, went double platinum in Canada, riding on the success of the singles Tonight Is a Wonderful Time to Fall in Love, and I Wouldn't Want to Lose Your Love. The song You Wait Tonight became a concert favorite and stands as one of the most popular songs the band has ever recorded. Following the supporting tour for Stand Back, the roster of members was again shaken up. This time, longtime member Jim Clench departed and was replaced by Steve Lang. Clench would stay active in music, doing stints in the rock bands Batchman, Turner Overdrive and Loverboy. The next release by the band would be titled The Whole World's Goin' Crazy. The album would be the first April Wine release to hit platinum status based on advance sales orders alone. The album contained the popular title track as well as a successful smash single, the ballad Like a Lover, Like a Song. Following the supporting tour for Crazy the band returned to the studio to record their sixth album, Forever for Now. The album would be another platinum seller and contained the band's biggest single to date, You Won't Dance With Me. In mid-1977, April Wine was booked to play a charity concert at the famed El Mocambo Club in Toronto, Ontario. Co-headliner on the bill was a band called the Cockroaches, who turned out to be the Rolling Stones. The pseudonym was a poorly kept secret and huge crowds turned out for the event. April Wine's performance was captured and released as the album Live at the El Mocambo. The band got its first chance at touring the US following the El Mocambo gig, first opening for the Rolling Stones, then for various popular headliners, including Styx and fellow Canadian band Rush. Another lineup change occurred in 1977, though rather than someone leaving, the band added a fifth member, Brian Greenway, who was brought in as a third guitarist. Not only could Brian contribute on guitar, he was also an accomplished singer and harmonica player. His addition gave April Wine a powerful three-guitar attack that would become synonymous with their hard rock sound. Also, with Brian on board to cover guitar duties, it allowed Mills Goodwin to switch to keyboards for the band's long list of popular ballads. Incidentally, Brian Greenway's former band, The Dudes, also contained April Wine alumni David and Richie Henman. 1979 saw continued Canadian success, and the beginning of international success. The band's seventh album, First Glance, had an immediate impact and the first two singles were both successful on Canadian radio. It was the third single, a raucous rocker called Roller, that brought the band mass appeal across North America. Roller started its momentum in Michigan and soon was a popular hit across the U.S., finding its way into the Billboard Hot 100 where it stayed for 11 weeks. First Glance also found an audience in the U.S., staying on the Billboard album chart for many weeks, making it April Wine's first gold record outside of Canada. Constant touring helped propel the band to greater success, as American audiences from coast to coast embraced the hard rock of this new band from Canada. Following on the popularity of First Glance, April Wine released Harder, Faster, Say Hello, and I Like to Rock were popular hits on both sides of the border, and Harder, Faster proved to be yet another multi-platinum release for the band. It would stay on the Billboard Top Album chart for 40 weeks. The supporting tour for the album began as an opening slot for Nazareth on their national tour across the United States. The 1980s peaks and valleys. April Wine's first decade had seen the band go from Canadian success to international recognition, and expectations were high following the success of 1979's Harder, Faster. The Nature of the Beast was released in January 1981, and riding on the popularity of the smash hit singles Just Between You and Me, and the band's cover of the Lawrence Hudd song Sign of the Gypsy Queen, the album hit multi-platinum success back home in Canada, and was the first April Wine album to reach platinum status internationally as well. April Wine embarked on an extensive support tour that saw them playing to their largest crowds ever. Following the Nature of the Beast tour, the band went on an 18-month hiatus. In July of 1982, April Wine released their 10th album, Power Play. The album included the singles Enough Is Enough, If You CK, and Anything You Want, You Got It. The latter would become the band's opening number on the supporting tour, while the Enough Is Enough video started receiving frequent rotation on MTV. The Power Play tour in 1982 was to be the largest tour in April Wine's history, complete with a huge stage and lighting show. Despite decent sales, Power Play was not met with the same critical acclaim the prior two albums had received. Both the album and its singles charted well on Billboard's lists, but did not have the same staying power that earlier albums and singles had achieved. The album writing and recording of the follow-up to Power Play, Animal Grace, took much longer than any of their earlier albums. During the process a rift started between certain members of the band, with Mills Goodwin moving from his native Canada to the Bahamas, further distancing himself from the rest of the band. Animal Grace started out with a quick rise on the charts, but it fell off just as quickly as it entered, and the single This Could Be the Right One suffered the same fate. In 1984 the band got together for its announced farewell tour. The 1984 tour was successful enough to spawn another live album, One for the Road. Goodwin then began working on what was intended to be his first solo album in 1985. However, April Wine still contractually owed Capitol Records one more album. Greenway joined Goodwin in Nassau, along with Montreal session musicians Daniel Barb, Gene Pellerin, and Marty Simon, to record what was supposed to be the band's final album, Walking Through Fire. In September 1985, the album Walking Through Fire surfaced under the April Wine moniker. Fans weren't convinced by the name, though, as only Goodwin and Greenway had returned. The other members had long since taken their leave and gone their separate ways. Mills Goodwin and Brian Greenway both released solo albums following the band's breakup. But things were mostly quiet in the April Wine camp for the remainder of the 1980s and early 1990s. Rebirth. In 1988 Mills Goodwin moved back to Canada from his home in the Bahamas. Almost immediately he began to be hounded as to whether there would be an April Wine reunion. Talks started slowly with other members. Some were interested but other commitments were getting in the way. An April Wine reunion was almost written off. But by 1992, April Wine returned to the stage, starting with a free concert in Portage la Prairie, Manitoba. The reunited band consisted of Goodwin, Greenway, returning drummer Jerry Mercer and bassist Jim Clench, who hadn't played with the band since 1975. Filling out the act was third guitarist Steve Siegel. The band, yet again, enjoyed cross-border touring success. In 1993 the band released the first true April Wine album in a decade, titled Attitude. It was certified gold in Canada soon after its release. Siegel remained with the band through one more studio release, 1994's Frigate. The band would release another album in 2001, entitled Back to the Mansion. Also in 2001, the band's song Roller was featured in the movie Joe Dirt. Then in 2003, they released the live album called Greatest Hits Live 2003. In 2004 Silverline released April Wine's first DVD called From the Front Row. Live. From 2001 to 2004 their live shows were filled out with the multi-talented Carl Dixon on guitars, keyboards and backing vocals. April Wine entered into its 37th year as a band in 2006. On October 31st of that year, Aquarius Records released April Wine Rocks. A brand new compilation of April Wine favorites, including a bonus live tune and a new album, entitled Roughly Speaking, was released on November 28, 2006. By the end of 2006, Clench had departed from April Wine for the second time and was replaced by bassist Breen LeBeouf in January 2007. A year later, Mercer announced his retirement and was scheduled to perform his final show with April Wine in Calgary, Alberta, ringing in the 2009 New Year. This final scheduled show, however, was cancelled due to bad weather. Mercer was replaced by drummer Blair Mackay in January 2009. In 2010 April Wine was inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, with Mills Goodwin and Brian Greenway accepting the honour. The ceremony was held during the Juno Awards April 18, 2010 in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. On November 3, 2010, former bassist Jim Clench died in a Montreal hospital after a battle with stage 4 lung cancer. LeBeouf left April Wine in July 2011 and was replaced by Richard Lanthier from the Yes tribute band called Close to the Edge. Mackay left April Wine in March 2012 and was succeeded by Roy Nip Nickel, who had performed with the Stacey Thorne Band, Sam Hill and most recently Spare Parts. April Wine continues to tour across Canada annually and also plays festivals in Europe and in the United States, with the group now consisting of Goodwin, Greenway, Lanthier, and drummer Roy Nip Nickel. Awards. April Wine has never been awarded a Juno despite 11 nominations. Mills Goodwin was awarded the ECMA Lifetime Achievement Award in 2003. April Wine was also inducted into the Canadian Music Industry Hall of Fame and awarded with the CMW Lifetime Achievement Award on March 13, 2009. In 2008 they were inducted into the East Coast Music Hall of Fame. On April 18, 2010, they were inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Discography. April Wine, On Record, Electric Jewels, Stand Back, The Whole World's Goin' Crazy, Forever for Now, First Glance, Harder, Faster, The Nature of the Beast, Power Play, Animal Grace, Walking Through Fire, Attitude, Frigate, Back to the Mansion, Roughly Speaking. Band members. See also, Canadian rock, music of Canada. References. External links, official website, April Wine on Facebook, CanadianBands.com bio, VH1.com article on April Wine VH1, Olmasic entry Olmasic.